So as we wait, what I've been doing for every information session is like asking folks, to drop in where their locations are. I think this is particularly interesting because it's the International Student Info session. So go ahead and drop in your location in the chat. Taiwan. Ooh, Lagos. Vancouver. Right, Colombia, right.
Five in the morning in Taipei, huh?
Is it? Oh my goodness. Costa Rica, yes.
The next day.
Right, I always found that interesting. I have a friend who lives in Australia, and it's always like, I guess, the next day for them. So I was like, how's the future?
Thanks for joining us then.
All right, yeah, we had a number of folks register, but for one reason or another, people are, particularly in this session, all over the world. So we're gonna go ahead and record this, and then fortunately, we're going to upload this to our new admin website along with the slides, so you'll be able to view it later if you're not able to take all the notes. All right, so I'll introduce myself. You all probably have been very familiar with my name. I'm Blaine Jones. I'm the Director of Admissions for Berkeley Journalism, and welcome. Today is going to be the International Student Information Session, and we have 4 of our current students who are second years, and they're all themselves international students, and they'll be leading the presentation today. You'll be able to have an opportunity to ask them questions. Drop your questions in the chat throughout the presentation if you like. But there'll be a time at the end for us to answer those questions, and or you can raise your hand and we'll have some folks speak out if they like. Tracy's here. You all know Tracy as well, and she'll be helping me out monitoring the chat. So I'm gonna go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Dina, Ashna, Yuri, and Lorraine. All right, you go up and take the mic.
Hi everyone, my name's Dina. I am from Egypt. I'm a second year student in the multimedia track, and I'm specializing in mobile storytelling.
Hi everyone, my name's Ashna Malpani. I'm from India. I'm a second year short form student, and I'm focusing on producing content for digital consumption.
Hi, I'm Yuri. I am from Mexico City. I'm a multimedia student, but well, I'm both like investigative multimedia, and I'm focusing on data journalism.
Hi everyone, my name is Lorraine. I'm from France. I'm a second year student on the multimedia track, and I'm focusing on data journalism. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. Can you see it? Yeah. So that's us. So this is a J school. So that was the J school before COVID, as you can imagine. So you can see the school, like the courtyard, people working outside, but also like, having some events inside the J school. That's one of the hallway here, one of the class, the video class, I think, or the documentary students over here. And so that was before, and now we're all online, but probably when you all going to be here, there's I hope so, that you'll have like more like in-person classes in a way or another. So that's the curriculum here. So during the first semester, you are basically divided into 4 groups. 2 of them are local reporting, on one on Richmond, one on Oakland, which are 2 cities here in the Bay Area. And 2 others are actually reporting on a topic. So it's going to be topic based. So our year was health and environment, and the other was sport and inequalities. This year was environment and extremism. So it depends and varies from one year to the next. So I don't know what will be on the agenda next year, but that kind of gave you an idea of what kind of classes you might expect for your first semester. And then during the second semester, you start exploring more classes and have different, you can take some specialization classes toward your concentration, but you also can have more classes that have nothing to do with it. So if you're interested in, I don't know, photojournalism, you can have a photo class, but also take something related to data or video, different, you can explore a bit more through our program. So the concentrations that are available for you, you have documentary, short form, narrative, audio, photo, and multimedia. And then at the end of the second semester, you'll start declaring your specialization for the second year before you start actually doing your internship during the summer. And then the second year, you start working on your master's project, which is based on your concentration, and take more classes towards this specialization, but also still kind of exploring if you still want to. And same thing for the last semester. So you're kind of wrapping up your project and taking other classes that you're interested in. You also can take classes at other departments on campus. So if you're interested in learning a language, you can take a language class. You can take different classes outside of the GS school per se. And we have travel classes. So this year and last year was Earth journalism. The last year, the trip, so basically it's a story about something related to the environment, and you go abroad. Last year it got canceled because of COVID. This year the trip is domestically, so it's somewhere in the US, but next year might change, depending on the current situation. But yeah, that kind of give you the idea of, you can travel, you can have different experience and take different classes in different topics or medium.
Okay, moving on to the housing options. There are a lot of options available for you. So some options are provided by the university. So they're like university housing for grad students, but there are also some off-campus housing options. And Facebook is essentially the best place that, you can start looking. And all of these green points, these are actually links to the Facebook groups. So since you're going to have access to the presentation, highly recommend joining them. People will post all kinds of availabilities. It could be apartments, a room in a house. Some people also just post asking, for what they're looking for. And I would advise it's kind of good to start looking, maybe right now to just see what it's like and maybe decide, like, do you want to live in Berkeley? Do you want to live in Oakland or in San Francisco? But also the housing market is always changing. So if you find a place right now, it's most likely it's not going to be available by the time you would be moving out here. So it's always best to kind of keep the final look, I guess, until like maybe a couple of weeks before you come. That's normally the amount of times that it would take you to find a place. So again, and right now, because everything's online, a lot of people have moved all over and, have gotten places further away from campus. So I guess it also depends on what the situation is going to be like for you guys. A lot of students, like in normal circumstances, will be within the Berkeley and Oakland area because that's close to campus. But, if, again, depends, you could also live in further away places. There was also the International House. It's an off-campus housing option. So it's not owned by the university, but it kind of functions like a dorm. Yuri and I actually lived there for the first year that we were here. And it's a really good option if you want to meet new people. It's predominantly international students. I think it's about like 70% international students. And it's just a great community where you get to meet people very easily and all the time. The iHouse has a lot of funding opportunities, and most people who live there do get some form of financial aid. I don't think I met anyone in it who was actually paying the full amount. And the advantage of iHouse is that it also has a meal plan with it. That's kind of included with that financial aid. There are also co-ops. I'm not sure if any of us lived in a co-op, but it's kind of also like a group housing situation where it'd be like a really big house. And there are some co-ops that are just for grad students, and some of them I think are for both. They have grads and undergrads. And if you just like search UC Berkeley co-ops, you're gonna get, because some of them, there's like a vegetarian and a vegan co-op. So, some of them will have like very specific rules. They're like co-ops for people of color. So you could also look at that. They tend to be a lot cheaper than a lot of like the housing options available on the market.
Yeah, about that, I would recommend that if you're interested in living in a student co-op, you should try to do it like as soon as possible, like as soon as you have like as soon as you enroll, because they have a very long waiting list. It took me 1 year to get a spot there. I ended up not moving there because of the pandemic. I mean, it didn't close, but I decided not to live in Berkeley. But I would recommend. It's really cheap. I would say it's like one of the cheapest options you would find. It's around $700 monthly. So it's pretty good, and it includes meals. So yeah, I would recommend go to the website, see what works for you. They do have options, as Dina mentioned, like if you're a grad student or a woman or a vegan or a person of color, and apply as soon as you can.
And just one thing I'll add about the iHouse that Yuri just brought to my attention. The iHouse also actually has a deadline. So also go on their website and check, because they have an application process. So these are probably the two, and obviously the campus housing, these are the stuff that will have deadlines, and you should probably start looking at them right now. But if you want to live off campus in an apartment or a house, then you can just look whenever, and that's when it makes more sense to kind of look at those a little bit closer to when you plan to come out here.
And a tip on that note is that another thing you could do is reach out to each other before you move to the city if you're wanting to live with other J school students, and get like an apartment or a house together if that's an environment you're going for.
There was a question related to, can you look at these things if they're UC Berkeley properties before you accept your admission, or do you have to have Cal? You're a Cal.
No, you can. I'll share the link if that helps.
Thanks.
Some housing groups require you to be a student. I think they ask for your Berkeley email, so you would need to have the Berkeley email to access them. But some of the, like, if you just go to these groups, I think some of like the off-campus stuff should be fine, but some stuff you have to be, they'll ask for your like student ID. It also helps, like on Facebook, just search housing Berkeley, and like there are so many groups out there. You could search housing San Francisco and just join the groups.
Also, it's not there on the list, but Craigslist is very, very helpful for finding a place to live. That's where I currently found my place, and it was like a very good place. It's good like for a specific search. If not, it's gonna be very overwhelming. But for example, like I knew that I wanted to live in San Francisco in the Mission in a furnished room. So I would like filter out like those characteristics, and I found a lot of good options. Okay, I guess we can move to the other slide now. Lauren, I guess last year you presented this.
Okay, yeah.
You wanna
Okay.
present it?
So there are some resources available for you on campus if you're if you're feeling sick or everything, we have like a tank center, which is basically kind of a clinic if you want. And so you can just go there, and you have like also health insurance included in your tuitions. So you can go there. There are also like whether psychological services there that are offered. We have there's Dr. Hunningham, which was leading a decompression club at the J school, and there a raffle with like healthy selfies. So basically, people are sending out their selfies, and you can win some prizes. And we have a rec center, which is basically a gym, and where you can work out and do any kind of sport you're interested in. I'm not the most sport person in this group, but I know some people may have more things to add here than I do. But yeah, basically. Anyone wants to add anything here?
I mean, this you will realize on your own, but I found that the biggest wellness resource were the students at the school themselves. So one thing that I wish that I had known sooner is that communication is really important at this school because it's so small. Like it's a really, really tiny school. So if you can like never feel shy to go up to somebody and be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? People are very, very open. And that could be like your biggest go-to in terms of any problems.
So then we have the basic need resources. I don't know if any one of you wants to go, otherwise I can't go. Okay, so there is on campus, there is a food pantry. So basically you can go up there and get some grocery food over there for, I don't know if it's free, but or at least it's pretty cheap. So you can go there, and there are also more resources on Berkeley International Office web page where you have financial aid information depending on your situation, and if you're eligible for. Go there also for the basic needs center. Same thing, go there, see if you're eligible for anything there. But there are like resources here that you can go and check out, and just make sure that you can actually get some financial aid there. So that's basically kind of a summary of the different groups and services available for you here. So you see like the Think Center here at the food pantry and so on. Some are you can't be eligible. I think CalFresh you aren't, because it's for, you need to be, I think, a US citizen or maybe a permanent resident, but basically usually international students aren't eligible for. But check out these different options, see if you're qualified, and try to apply if you want.
I can talk about this. So we have different affinity groups at the J School. You can join any of them regardless if you are, I don't know, like Hispanic identifying student, even if you're like interested in covering the Latinx community, or yeah, you just like want to have a group to hang out with, because it's a like a student community group, and we organize sometimes like events or gatherings, or we sponsor talks. Actually, well, I'm the chair of the NAHJ, which is the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. I mean, I'm the chair of the Berkeley chapter, and Dina is the founder and the chair of MENA, which is the Middle Eastern students. And actually, Ajna, you're the chair of the the Asian American Journalists Association, right? Okay, yeah. So there are those groups. There's also the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association, and this new one called Entrepreneurial Journalism. Oh, and I forget Women in Media. They have an event right now, like this afternoon. I don't know if you can join if you are outside the J school, but if you want to have an idea of what these affinity groups do, it would be good. It's also helpful to be part of this group. Well, also like to be part of a community, but also if you join these groups, like this, like the national groups, they gave a lot of opportunities like for internships, for scholarships, also for networking. So yeah, I would recommend joining one of these groups once you get into the J school. Oh, there's a question like how can you join those groups? Like once you start, like the first day, those group, whoever is the chair of those group, will introduce and will tell you like how to join. But it's like very like informal. Like in some groups, like for NAHJ, you need to have a membership if you want to apply to scholarships, but that's like for the national groups. Like it's not like I'm requiring like everyone to have a membership. That's like for the sometimes it's like a requirement for events, but from the national group. So this one is like very informal. Maybe like know who the chair is, reach out, ask if this person can include you on the mailing list or Slack group. Yeah.
Also, it looks like Cesar had a question about the schedule. So y'all can also add to it, but there's really no schedule as to when you have to reach the university. Like if your class is at 9 a.m., you can get there at 8:59 as long as you're in class at 9 a.m. And to arrive at a location on any vehicle, like a great tool is Google Maps. So that can also help you calibrate how long it would take you to get from like anywhere, let's say even San Francisco to the university. But this is very unlike undergrad and even unlike high school. So professors are very understanding, and yeah, as long as you're there on time.
Okay, I can go. So now talking about money and financial aid, I just want to touch up first on the bio, the international office, which Lorene briefly mentioned in the previous slide. They have financial aid available for international students because a lot of, like you'll see that sometimes it's difficult for international students to get a hold of aid because some stuff is just available for US citizens. So the bio financial aid is becomes available once you are a second year. So you start like also it's also like an application process that has deadlines. So keep an eye out on the website. I think for this semester's financial aid, the application opened after like the first week of class, and we heard back from them like right before spring break, so like a week ago. So just make sure that you check their websites to stay up to date. They do have some loans that I believe are interest-free that you could start, that you could probably apply to early on. I'm not familiar with the loan process, but all of that information is on the bio website. But there are also other opportunities and other options. So during your first year at the school, your first year here, you can only work on campus. You're going to be allowed to work off campus once you're a second year student. And while working on campus, you don't need any work authorization. There's probably going to be some paperwork that you have to fill, and some positions would require you to get a social security number. But other than that, you don't need to worry about applying to any work authorization stuff. You can work a maximum of 20 hours every week. And some of the positions that you can hold are GSI, which is the graduate student instructor. GSR is a graduate student researcher. Tutor is kind of like a TA, a teaching assistant. And a reader is essentially a grader for a professor. And you can only work as a tutor at the J school when you're second year. They don't offer the positions to the first years, but you could apply to these positions in other departments. So I've previously worked at the media studies department. I know other students who have worked at political science and English, history. It helps if you have, you know, like whatever area you have background in, or if you know, right now I'm doing history because I just took a bunch of history classes in undergrad. Like they don't really require you to be like an expert in the field. So you can normally, you know, whatever area you feel comfortable in, you just go on that department's website and you can see, they usually have like a listing of, you know, how many positions they're offering. And the good thing about these positions is that it provides a fee remission. So if you get any of these positions, I think it takes off about $10,000 of your tuition, and you also get paid. The reader and tutor are paid by the hour, and I believe it's every couple of weeks. GSI, you get paid every month. It's like a set salary. It's not by the hours. I'm not sure about GSR. I would assume it's kind of like GSI. But yeah, there are also opportunities at the IRP, the Investigative Reporting Program. And once you begin the program, the IRP, like within the first couple of weeks of school, they're going to send out an email, you know, for like telling you about the positions available and asking, you know, if people are interested and you can apply. These are also paid positions. JPR positions, you know, you can help in like admissions. There's something we have called the J Digests, which is like it's kind of like a newsletter thing that's sent out into the school. There are the international student JPers like me, Yuri, and Ashna, and Lorene is the admissions JPer. So these are also paid positions. You can also work at the J school in other positions, not the tutor, since that won't be available first year. You could work in the studios, I believe, and the tech tutor. Ashna can maybe talk a little bit more about that. There are the Bridge Awards that usually go out, I believe, every year. It's like a financial award from the school. It's just an application that you fill and you send it to the school. You don't have to repay that. And student loans, that depends on your home country and what the, you know, what that looks like there. So you can check that out.
We lost your sound a little bit, Dina. You just sound farther away.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Yep.
So I don't know what happened. I was saying that for loans, that depends on your home country. So you can look into that, or if there are specific scholarships or like, you know, government funded things where you come from. But yeah, so you can't really work off campus during the first year. And lastly is the Berkeley Advanced Media Institute. I've never worked there, so I don't really know much. I don't know if any of you guys worked here. You can maybe provide input on what that's like.
Lorena and I work sometimes. I just work like a couple times, like helping out with classes. And the BAMI Institute is for outsiders, so people who are not enrolled at the J school are most of the cases they are like working professionals and they want to take like some special courses, so we help them out, like in case they have like some questions, because they have like some like lab hours, so we help there in whatever like track we feel we comfortable with. Like I help with the data class, the data visualization class, and I think Lauren, you help with video, right?
Yeah, the data and video. Yeah. So like you help them with like questions they have with like, I don't know, Premiere or a website or something, you know, just help them out with that project that they have to do for the class that they're taking at BAMI.
There's a question in the chat that's asking, can I be a correspondent for Columbia International Media from there? So technically, like, you can't. Once you are in the US, you can't be working for like another company that's based outside and getting paid by them. And that's just like an immigration thing, like because of your visa. but you know, I would speak to the international office, because if you're doing it for money, you're not supposed to be doing that. It should be like a place that's based in the US, but during your first year, you're not allowed to do any job that's not on campus. So you would like, you could pitch stories to places, but you can't get paid for them. So in the J200 class that Lorene was talking about earlier, a lot of students will just pitch to get their stories published, but international students are not supposed to get any money for them. So yeah, the straight answer to your question is technically no, you can't do that.
So about the tech tutor position, I love that job, even though it's remote right now. It's so much fun. It's a 1-year position. You get, so if you like, you apply to it, and basically what a tech tutor does is that they work in the cage that is downstairs. It's the place where we have all our equipment. And what the person would be doing is helping other students check out that equipment. So it's like if I come up to the tech tutor and I'm like, hey, I need to check out a C200 camera. So you would take out the camera, help them assemble the entire thing, answer some basic questions if they have it, and just log that into the computer. So you would be handling that part. There are generally 5 to 6 tech tutors that work 20 hours per week on shifts. It's great because when things are slow, you can be working on your own stuff. At the moment, you get to interact with the J School community, and not just video students, but audio, multimedia, sometimes even narrative. It comes with many perks, such as like fee remission, you get paid for it. Uh, some parts of your fees also get knocked off, like health insurance. So it is a pretty good job to look into.
And to add on to that, so the different jobs, they obviously have different workloads. So the tech tutor, like Ashna said, it's pretty low workload. The reader positions are also pretty low workload. GSI is probably the most intense one because you do teach your own section. So there's a lot of prepping, and you also grade, and it's just a lot of work. So if you're able to get a hold of a reader position or a tutor, or like a tech like whatever tutor, tech tutor, any other tutor, you know, that would be great. They tend to be a lot more competitive, obviously, because the workload is a lot less. So you'll find that a lot of times you're only left with GSI options available, because obviously everyone wants, you know, the reader or the tutor position, because they do all provide the same benefits. The reader and tutor pay is just a little bit less than the GSI, but with regards to like the fee remission, it's the same for all of them.
Yeah, actually, Dina, that was such a great note, because I had applied for a GSI position, got it, and I had to let it go because, like, you also have to know what your workload is going to be and what your capacity is. Because, you know, sometimes you think, oh, yeah, I can handle this, I can handle that. But please, and also speak to a thesis advisor. Like when you get your advisor, and if you're applying to one of these positions, they will be able to guide you and let you know that what that workload for that semester is going to look like.
Okay, I can take on this one. So working on campus. So you, like as Dina mentioned, the first year you can only work on campus. You don't need to issue any permission for working on campus. I mean, you can also work second year on campus, but if you have the opportunity to work outside, it's better because you have like experience on your field. So for working on campus, yeah, you can only work max 20 hours during semester, and more than that is it's a lot. Like even though that's like what it's permitted, like you don't want to work more than that. And for the summer internship, you are required to do a summer internship. Sometimes it can be done like later. Like for example, when we had to do our summer internship, COVID had just started. And so it was like a lot of internships got canceled. So they were very flexible. You can also do it like on spring semester, but ideally it's a summer internship. And for this, you need to issue a CPT, and the bio office, the Berkeley International office would help you. It's a lot, like the process is like very, like they ask you for a lot of documents, and you need a letter from the employer. And so I would recommend doing this on time. So you have it on time, because you're not like allowed to work until you have your permission. And then, well, this is like the first, well, the summer internship. But actually with this OPT, you can also, sorry, CPT, which is what you issue to do your internship. You can also ask for this CPT if you want to have an internship during the fall semester or spring semester. For example, my internship, it got extended. So I also worked, it wasn't longer an internship. I did had, I had a contract, but to be able to work, I had to issue a CPT for the spring semester and another one for the fall semester. Sorry, I said it the other way, for the fall semester and the spring semester. And the OPT is once you finish studying. So the OPT is like a 1 year, well, a 2-month work authorization outside the J school. So while the CPT only allows you to work 20 hours a week, this one requires you to work at least 20 hours a week. And it's for a year, but because journalism, it's a STEM program, we can extend this OPT permission for 2 more years. So that would be 3 years in total. The paperwork is also a lot. It's like even more difficult than the CPT. But by difficult, I mean that it's gonna take you like a lot of time, and you have to gather a lot of documents and be very specific, but that doesn't mean like impossible, or that doesn't mean that you won't get it. And also, one thing, you have to apply for this one a lot of, like for the OPT, with a very big time frame, because it can take between 2 and 5 months, and you need it in order to work. So for example, Dina, Lorraine, and I don't know if Ashna, you applied already for it, but we sent our papers like last month, so we could get it just in time we finish our program and we can work. So we don't have this time that we won't be able to work if we already have a job offer.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. One says, with the CPT for summer internship take away OPT time? No, it's not. They're not related. The CPT allows you to work while you are a student after you finish the first year. The OPT, it's the year after you finish the program. So for us, for instance, we finish our program on May 14. So like May 15, our CPTs end. We legally cannot work unless we have the OPT. So if you don't have the OPT by then you can't start working again until you get an OPT. And the OPT is valid for a year. And during that year, you're allowed 90 days of unemployment. So there are only like, and when you extend it, you get, I think each year it's like 90 days where you don't have a job. But if the 90 days are over, then it's no longer valid, and that would just mean that you're not allowed to work. There was another question: what is the workload like in the first semester? It's pretty manageable. You're mainly just taking J200. So you're just, I mean, it depends on the section you're in. I was in health and environment. It was manageable. We had to produce, I think, a story, or like pitch a story every 2 weeks. And normally, like with J200, you'll just take like one other class. So it's not a lot compared to your second year when it gets to be really intense.
Yeah, the first year I even took 2 classes. Like you are required just to take like the J200, which is like the most demanding because it's 9 hours a week in total, and one more, and I took two more, and I thought it was still like doable. Yeah, but your second year, since you are working already, if, as a GSI, or you have like an internship or whatever, it gets very stressful.
Did any of you work your first semester? No.
I
First,
did.
Yeah, the very first. Can you?
you can. I didn't, but yeah, you can start applying to actually GSI and reader positions. They say it's not recommended, just because you're settling in, figuring it out, like all of that. But you can get a job first semester. There's no problem. There's nothing that says you can't.
Yeah, or you can like, as Lorraine and I did, help at the VAMI, and it's like you help one day, and they pay you like, you help one day like 3 hours, and they will pay you those 3 hours. So it depends on your schedule. So that's very convenient. Oh, important things to remember about applying to this is preserve all the original I-20s. This is very important. Like, no one told me about this, because with the I-20 is also what you need to show when you get in the United States. So in my first semester, I was traveling a lot to Mexico back and forward, and I was like carrying my I-20, and I had to change it several times, because when I got my CPT, I got a new I-20. And then I just like got rid of my old CPT, because I thought I wouldn't need it anymore. I had my new one. And I left all of them like all over the place. And when I apply for my OPT, they require the original ones, well, a copy of the original ones. And I didn't know if I had them. Yeah, I thought I had thrown them away. Yeah, fortunately, like my dad found one in Mexico that I left, so he scanned them. But yeah, you don't want to be stressed about that. So it's very important. Also, that the bio will assign your I-20, but this has to be updated. This will last only 10 months. So if you have to leave the country for any reason, like leave the United States and go back, make sure your signature is still valid. This is very easy. You just like go to the office and get it signed. Now with COVID, the offices are not open, but they can like send you a digital copy. And also, well, your passport has to be valid. This is important. And you have to be enrolled at least in 12 units. Sometimes you just can't handle 12 units. For example, I am currently enrolled in 9, but since I'm working outside the J school, I'm doing my thesis, it's too much and I cannot handle 12 units. So the school has this, which is called the ghost units, the administrative units, which will help you like reach the 12 units, even though you're not taking, like 4 classes or whatever will get you to 12 units. Well, other thing is like, well, you have to be very respectful with this rule, like don't work off campus without authorization, because this can affect your status, like when you're applying for your OPT or CPT. And also apply for your social security number, like as soon as you start working. Even if you're working on campus, you would need to apply. And also I would say, yeah, try to get it as soon as possible. I also had like a lot of complications because I didn't issue mine on time. So because of the pandemic, the offices were closed, and I did have some trouble signing my contract because I didn't have a social security number, and I wasn't able to sign a contract like for 6 months. So you really want to get this solved as soon as possible. And well, the Berkeley International office, yeah, it's a great source. They would help you like in case you have like any questions. They have some advisors you can talk to if you have like any question regarding like what you can or you cannot do as an international student. They can connect you to lawyers in case you have specific questions. They do take a little bit to answer. They might take like up to 3 days to answer. But they do have drop-in office hours, so you just call and wait until they attend you. And the J school, like they will email you prepaid. Well, it's not a prepaid plan, but it's like a SIM card, and it's a very cheap option to begin with. I got it, and when I yeah when I just got into the States, it really helped me because for other companies you are required to give like either a social security number or other documents that I didn't have, and for this Mint option you don't need to. So begin with, it's a good option. It's not the cheapest one. What I did is like my first semester I used Mint, and then no, my first year I used Mint, and once I was in the US and I already had a social security number and I knew other plans, I just changed to AT&T. But
Um,
it helps. Sorry. Also, because when you apply to different things, they would ask you to have an international number. Well, they won't ask you, but they will ask you for like a number. And what I realized first, that I was using my Mexican number, that no one would call me to my Mexican number because they thought they would get charged, even though they wouldn't. But people just don't like calling to international numbers. So it's helpful to have a local one. Sorry, I think Ashna, you were gonna say something.
Oh yeah, I didn't know this before, but the cheapest option that I found was to join a family plan. So once one person, like in your cohort or someone that you know, has a social, so I paid $30 a month, and it has unlimited texting, calling, and data. So family plans are also something you can look into for like T-Mobile, Verizon, and all of them.
Question in the chat: are we able to do the internship in our home country?
I think
I'm
you can.
not. I think you can. I'm not sure. Tracy, is there like a rule against that? If you know.
No, you can do it there in your home country.
I mean, I think, yeah, you can, but I would recommend, like, if you have the opportunity to do it in the US, I would recommend doing it because you get like connections. You also get, well, experience working. And so when you're applying for a job, like they know the place. For example, in Mexico, I was working in a like news outlet called Animal Politico, which people in Mexico know, and it's like a big publication. But here in the US, when I would say, oh yeah, I work for Animal Politico, like no one would know. So it helps when you're applying to jobs, like to have the working experience in a news outlet that they know, and that they know they're big and what it means to have worked there. And also it helps that you will be able to collaborate in some pieces that are in English, which was also one thing like I had to deal with, that most of my my the things that I work on were in Spanish. So even though I wanted to show that I had experience or I knew about a topic, it wouldn't mean anything because they wouldn't understand. So if you do your internship, you also have like examples of your work.
But also, if you like know you want to go back to your home country after the program and like you have a certain plan, then it's like doing the internship in the US is obviously really good for networking if you want to stay here and you want to get a job after you're done. But if you have a different preference, then doing internship in your home country could be helpful if that's what you want to do after your 2 years at the J school. You know, you could also start networking over there.
Um, do you have, well, you have been asking things in the chat, but do you have any other questions related to anything we talked about or anything we didn't mention?
Hi, my name is Catherine. Thanks for that. That was really excellent. I guess I'm wondering, we still have travel restrictions where I live, and I think others are in the same boat. For us, it's not that we can't travel to the US, but we can't get home. And so that puts some pause on going to the US in August before that's all settled. Are there any thoughts about having an online option in this fall? I mean, I know we'd all like to be in person, but if travel's not possible?
So right now we're shooting for in person, and we recognize that people may have trouble with that. So I think we're trying to figure out, if there's a way, if you have problems getting here, if there's a way to, simultaneously do the filming, showing of this, I'm trying to think of the word, but yeah, live showing on Zoom or something of the class and such. But our hope is that you can make it. I know some of you all, Dina and Ashna, actually maybe all of you at some point traveled home, but it took a minute, right?
Yeah, it's like the rules are always changing. I wasn't able to travel over the summer because I just like Egypt full on closed the airport. But then when it was a risk for a lot of us when we left, but most people were able to come back into the US. But I know that maybe where you are, they won't allow you to come back in. So, but in August, by then maybe things would have changed. So I don't know.
Thank you. Hoping that they're going to change. How did you run the J200 piece with everybody not there? I'm just trying to picture how that would have worked.
Yeah, so we tried to, depending on time zones, we confirmed where people were at, and we had most of the J200s were 9 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which worked for most people, even if you're out of the country, or even on a different coast in the US. And then we also had a later one that was like 4 to 7 to help accommodate that. But I know it wasn't easy for people. I think most of our first years now are here, except for a couple that are still abroad. They would join. I mean, even I know some of you all, the second years here, joined in classes late at night. So yeah, we just did it. Hoping that we encourage faculty to record the stuff. So record the class so people couldn't make it for various reasons. I find the faculty are pretty accommodating in terms of if something comes up. So as you come to the start of the school year, if you're having trouble either getting in or just pausing for a moment to decide to come, let us know, keep us posted. They had to mail equipment, for example, which is the first ever that we ever did. So that was a Herculean effort. So.
Hi, I have a question, and I don't know if it is related, but I would like to know if when are we expecting to hear from the graduate division? Because it's been almost a month, and some of us are getting anxious.
I can answer that. So Cesar, I'll contact you directly. So there's a few, for various reasons, like if you're missing documents or a transcript or whatever the case may be, this is the reason why it's like holding off on the official admit letter. But I'll reach out to you directly. There's still like maybe like 5 more people in my queue that I need to get in contact with. But yeah, the letter is pending. We'll get it to you.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
So hi, I have a question. I have a link here from the internationals office. It's about housing and there's one question is the Facebook link in there. I cannot have access to it. How could I have access to this kind of Facebook group about housing?
Which Facebook? Which link is it?
Yeah. Let me scroll down. There's a few link like housing search Facebook group, graduate student housing Facebook group. Both of those links, when I open it, it said that, let me open it, sorry. It said that the content is not right it's not available right now. Seems to me that I don't have access to it.
Yeah, that's the this is one of the groups that requires you to be like an enrolled student. But so yeah, so you won't be able to join this one right now without there are like a bunch of university Facebook groups. It's like essentially a UC Berkeley Facebook group, and then it has like a housing one, a networking, not so many. So you need to have a Berkeley email. So you could join the other housing, like the other public groups, until you have a Berkeley email.
Thank you. Another thing is about the logistic. So if we send out acceptance, when are we going to expect for I-20?
I think if I remember correctly, for the I-20, because they mail it to you, there was like an option like to get it quicker, like you pay more and they send it to you faster. So yeah, just like once that option becomes available, just make sure that I honestly, I don't remember what the process was like. I just remember having to do stuff online. So just like do it as soon as you can. And they will tell you like it's going to take an estimated, I don't know, like week or two. But if you pay this amount, then it could, get you in like maybe a couple of days. So they'll have more information on it.
Thank you.
I'll just ask. Hi everyone. Thanks for the session. Super helpful and informative. I have a quick question with regards to just kind of financial aid and like the packages. I know domestic students are like kind of waiting for like to hear information about like federal loans and like other aid from the university. But as far as it goes for like international students, since we don't qualify for that, like would we get some other, like are we waiting for anything else from the school just to like confirm what our final financial aid package is, or it just kind of ends at the Department of Funding and then we look for other resources?
Yes, the last thing that you said. So ends at departmental funding and then look for other resources. Like it sounds like you all said earlier, the bio has some, and then if there's other external ones.
Bio's available when it's your second
Oh, when you're a
year.
student. Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I think you can take out a loan, if I'm not mistaken, from bio, but the bio financial aid becomes available after completing 2 semesters. So maybe, you can like start kind of looking at the like the reader and tutor positions if you're interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I would also recommend looking into other scholarships, like outside funding from other like NGOs, or also there are other scholarships that they say they are like for national students, because they would ask you for your like FAFSA report, which we don't have. And what I've done in other cases, like I email and I say like, hey, I don't have like a FAFSA. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I don't have that. And can I still apply? Or is there like any other way I can show that I need this scholarship? And they have given me other options, maybe giving your like tax filing report from your home country. So yeah, make sure, even though they ask you for documents that are only for US students, like make sure you are not eligible.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And just really quick about the GSI and like with the other positions, when do you recommend kind of starting looking into them?
I would start looking over the summer. Like different departments have different deadlines. So some of them, I mean, March, I doubt that they've already posted their fall positions, but maybe like starting May, go to the different schools and see. Some of them will continue hiring even when the semester begins. Like the one that I have right now, it was like a very last minute position. I got it like a month after the semester began because they had someone leave and they just needed someone last minute. So yeah, there are a lot of positions so available.
Sweet. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I have another question. So how is the experience of finding internship in here as international student? Because I know right now the job market is quite competitive.
I mean, I don't know if we are the best.
We stopped. Yeah, we stopped. Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't know if we're the best cohort to answer that question because a lot of internships got canceled because of COVID. For us, so we like some of us had to do like non-traditional internships. It was like a different situation for our class. You know, but with regards to Germany, honestly, like finding jobs for international students is a little bit more difficult than it is for US citizens, but it is doable. We all have part-time jobs right now. But hopefully by the time, like by next summer, the situation will be a lot better. And even if things are still remote, like newsrooms have adapted. The problem with our class is that when our internships were supposed to begin is just when the pandemic hit. So all the places I applied to just canceled the internships. They just were not ready. But now a lot of them have like, you know, remote options. So it would be a different situation for your cohort. But just apply to everything, honestly. The more applications you send, the better.
Yeah, so I would say that it is difficult. Like I remember when we were applying, we were getting rejected too, like from all of the internships we were applying to. But what helps a lot is like the J School sometimes has partnerships, or sometimes like news outlets like reach out and say like, hey, we need you to recommend me like 3 students. So they have an internal process at the J School. That's how I got mine. Which actually, so mine, the internship wasn't like open or wasn't posted. It was only because, well, it was like at the New York Times graphic department, and they had like they needed for a COVID project 3 students from different universities. So they needed 3 students from the J School. So the J School, they open like yeah, you could apply, and they would select the 3 students they would recommend, and that's how I got mine. And Dina, and she didn't get her internship that way, but the job she got, it was also thanks to a partnership, right? Like KQED.
Yeah, the KQED contacted the school and they said they wanted 10 students. So it wasn't something that they posted like publicly and essentially, so they got 10 people from the school. So and like over the past, since summer, the school has kind of increased these partnerships. So a lot of organizations will just reach out to the J School and ask for people, so you don't have to go through like the traditional hiring process.
And that helps a lot because like the school is smaller. Like for example, mine, there were not a lot of people interested in doing data. So that, yeah, that made the pool shorter. So yeah, that helps a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lorraine, for example, she got her internship like herself. Like I don't think like the internship was posted. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but
No, they kind of created the internship for me. I kind of started to apply everywhere, like send resume to every newsroom I could find, basically. Well, not everyone, but you know, a lot. And it worked out at some point. Like someone was like, okay, well, we can maybe work out something. And so and I'm still working for them part-time now. So that's, you know, it's kind of you have to apply everywhere, and fingers crossed, you know, but just is kind of, yeah, the way. It really depends. And I think our year, as Gina and Yuri said before, was very different because of the situation and the pandemic. But you know, and then I think even without the pandemic, then you have to kind of apply everywhere still, you know, and just try your best. And yeah.
All right, so we are slightly over time, but I mean, it was really good conversation. A lot of great information was communicated. But and yeah, 2 of our panelists had to go. But I want to like give a big round of applause and thank you to Yuri and Lorraine, and as well as Dina and Ashna. And they did list their emails at the top of the presentation, so you're welcome to reach out to them directly if you'd like. And yeah, thank you all for coming. And we're going to, like I said, this is being recorded, so it'll be up on the website. So if you want to look at it again, as well as a slide and a slideshow presentation. But thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day, wherever, or evening, wherever you are located.